All right, so question number 1. Create a recording that describes the relationship or interconnectedness of decoding, vocabulary, and comprehension. Be sure to use keywords in your description. Guys, remember, I do not work in a classroom setting, so I have to choose some of the questions that allow me to speak from training. I'm in the middle of training right now. I consider this the DVC love triangle that I learned somewhere along the way. I was able to find supporting text in our book on page 77 for vocabulary and page 97 for comprehension. These are 3 key components that make up reading skills. Because these 3 are interconnected, any deficit in any area will affect the overall reading skill as a whole. Comprehension is contingent upon understanding the vocabulary that is read. Decoding supports self-teaching of written word representations, allowing students to read dependently on phonological coding and reading based on orthography or reading independently, including spelling norms, hyphenation, capitalization, word breaks, emphasis, and punctuation. When I look at number 2, sorry, give me a second. Create a recording that identifies factors that affect the vocabulary development of children prior to grade K or 1. Before a child can read, how are most vocabulary words learned? Identify and describe 4 ways in which educators can work to increase children's vocabulary. So, factors that affect the vocabulary development of children prior to kindergarten or 1st grade are found on page 78. Children are exposed to vocabulary at home. So children who grow up in poverty are exposed to less vocabulary than children who are not. Children who are born into poverty are already at a deficit. By 1st to 3rd grade, the gap is even bigger, and that's when most students struggle with reading, especially if they have a limited vocabulary. So 4 ways in which educators can work to increase children's vocabulary is I always start by data to see where my children are when I was teaching, and I would put them in tiers based on their academic ability. So depending on where they were, set the tone for what I did. So for my very beginners learning, we did a lot of things through Starfall, a lot of repetition. We did flashcards. We worked in the morning on the carpet. Nowadays is a little different because flashcards are not like quote unquote the thing to do, but that's what I was doing back when I taught, I don't know, like 5 or 6 years ago. Another one is the cards that we would use with like shh and ack, shh, ack. And we would teach them those like the sh, f, ch. Another thing that I would do with the kids is a word family on a wheel. So say the word family is at. It's like a little spin wheel, and you can change it to C that makes k, at, P that makes p, at. Those are some of the things with vocabulary because they need to be able to understand what they are reading. When I did my read alouds, I would preload any vocabulary words. So for example, if we did the 3 bears, Goldilocks and the 3 bears. So porridge would be one of the words that I front loaded. Comfortable, grand. A lot of children don't know that grand means large. So through a lot of just things that I would say, I would use words actually, and you know, kids, they see you all the time. They're with you more than their parents, so they'll start to pick up their vocabulary from their teacher.